My name is Denis Roudenko. My good friend and colleague Sergei Aleksandrov will be joining me in a quest to find the best white wines produced in the Russian Black Sea coast. Let our wine holidays commence. Hi there. Hi. Wait a second. That's my glass.
You snooze, you lose. What is it exactly?
It's one of the local wines. Don't worry, it's not a fake.
Really? I still feel weird about the whole thing.
Let me get a couple of glasses. I dare you to tell me which wines are Russian and which ones aren't.
Well, this one is definitely Russian. So is this one. This one tastes a little better. But still not very good though. This is one of the New World ones. Tastes really cheap.
You know, in the last couple of years, the quality of local wines has become significantly better. And yet we still have this habit of looking down on our local wines. As a matter of fact, there are some really good wineries, and there are superb examples of wine in this area.
The next morning, Denis took me to the Semigoria winery. The owner of this winery prefers the European term garagist over the more commonly used winemaker. Let's see what his garage is capable of.
What a nice trip. It was totally worth it. Beautiful, sun.
After this early morning exercise, I really enjoyed a nice bubbly bath.
La belle, la traîtresse avait acheté une auto. Avec mon petit vélo, j'avais l'air d'un con. Ma mère, avec mon petit vélo, j'avais l'air d'un con.
However, we didn't have time to relax all day. Hi.
Time to go.
Quand j'ai couru chanter ma petite chanson pour Marinette, la belle, la traîtresse était allée.
It is an incredibly beautiful place. 24 hectares is a reasonable size for a European winery. When you taste European wines, you immediately get a good idea of the technology used in its production. How serious are South Russian winemakers about the technology they use? Is this family-run winery capable of producing high-quality wines?
It's really easy to make wine when you have this deep family tradition of winemakers. You continue doing everything the way your grandfather did it. You already know what works on your soil with your vineyard. But here we are still learning, experimenting, trying to figure out what technology would work best. Gennady, please tell us, is there some interesting story behind this place? How did you get the idea to try your hand at winemaking?
Oh, that was purely a matter of chance. In 1994, as an anniversary present for my wife, I organised a trip to South Africa. I'd never been abroad before. I was fascinated with that country, and especially with their rich wine culture. Since then, I've been travelling all over the world, but I couldn't find better wine anywhere else. I went back to South Africa 4 more times. It got me thinking why we, in Russia, can't make the same types of chateau wines, garage wines. I don't mean to say that we must be producing the best wines in the world, but why not make good wine that people can enjoy? It's a rather expensive business, therefore we got government subsidies, about $10,000 per hectare.
The winemaking equipment you usually find in Russia doesn't compare to what inspired you in South Africa. Was it hard to make high-quality wine?
Well, we got really good wine right away. The first year, we had 3 tons of wine. We couldn't believe it. It was delightful. Now we've brought in a good Serbian wine press. It is hydraulic, but you pump it by hand, like a car jack.
That sounds fun. Is there a chance I could give it a try?
Okay, let's have a garage winemaking masterclass.
It is very important to get the grapes from the fields to the winery as quickly as possible. There, they go right into the crusher destemmer, then into the press where they are turned into juice, which is now ready for fermentation. During fermentation, the juice undergoes a number of complex biochemical processes. One of them involves sugars in the juice creating ethanol, commonly known as ethyl alcohol. To make wine look perfect, contemporary wineries use complex filtration systems. After that, the wine is chilled. The low temperature encourages the crystallization of tartaric acid, which forms a sandy residue, which winemakers poetically call wine diamonds. Some wines are then kept in wooden barrels, which gives them unique depth.
Well, that didn't sound that hard. Let's try it.
Careful, this belongs to the museum.
Great! I don't have too much grape to go through. What would I do if I had a couple of tons of this stuff? I would kill myself. Each grape has a layer of white dust. It is yeast. Every single grape has dozens or even hundreds of different types of wild yeast. They can give wine totally unpredictable nose and palate. So we have to get rid of them. Okay, I have about enough here now.
Oh, come on! I told you to check it. Look at this! Those grapes are spoiled.
Will they really make a difference in the whole basket?
You have to do it over. To get really good wine, you have to be happy with every single one of them. We press no more than 50% of the grapes. Free-run juice makes the best wine.
Are we going to use the wild yeast I spotted when I was sorting the grapes?
No, no, no. We only use high-quality cultured yeast.
That's how it's done. With this high-tech piece of equipment, a stick. The trick is to add the yeast little by little and keep stirring, which is what I'm going to do now. Such a complex intellectual process. We are heading in the direction of Novorossiysk to the Miskhako winery. This is one of the biggest winemaking businesses in the area.
The quality of wine made at a small winery depends solely on the knowledge and passion of its owner. With large-scale operations like this one, completely different things are important.
All the vineyards here at Miskhako are divided into a number of sectors. We know exactly what each sector is capable of. We know that this sector will produce reserve wine, and that sector is only good for cheaper, everyday kind of wines. The grape from each sector goes into its allocated wine fermenter. We devise a unique winemaking technique to each type of grape we grow here. You can trace all that on each bottle. We are very careful with our labels. You can read exactly what batch of grapes the wine comes from. This makes it easy to correct little mistakes or indeed make notes of successes. This is the main difference between the large-scale production and small bespoke garage wineries.
I can't wait to see all these vineyards. Judging by the size of your vineyards, 463 hectares, you have quite a few different sorts of grape here. How do you know what patch of land is best for a specific grape?
Our vineyards spread right from the seashore all the way to the mountains. We have to consider the type of soil we get in different areas. It is believed that the best sorts of grape for red wine grow on stony soils.
What about Chardonnay?
Same story. Floodplain soils are perfect for Sauvignon Blanc. These plants need a lot of water. They have massive leaves. Then you can get those famous New Zealand undertones. You need to consider so many things. This is as tricky as building a house from scratch.
Meanwhile, Roman and I didn't want to miss the chance for a good lunch.
I think Chardonnay, just like Cabernet Sauvignon, is one of the grape varieties which gives you an idea what you are getting. It can be different, but it will be good. This wine is very interesting. That's what Grand Reserve should look like. That's what Miskhako stands for. When you're creating a new winery, you need to make sure that the product you are going to make will sell. If you have 50 hectares, you have the space to experiment. However, you need to make sure that your business will work. This can be done by producing decent, likable wines people actually want to drink. Even if you have Even if your little experiment with Trebbiano doesn't pay off, you still have Chardonnay, which is light, likable, and more importantly, recognizable.
Are our lunch choices the best pairing for this Chardonnay?
I'm not sure. I think that Chardonnay goes well with spicy dishes. Chardonnay is oily. It can even be a little sweet. I think it needs some strong flavors to bring out the aroma.
Let's try it with another main course.
After lunch, it was time to get on with my day. I headed right to the winery's cellars to blend my own wine. It's important to know that each sort of grape goes through the fermentation process separately. This allows you to consider their individual tastes and aromas to create a unique blend. Here is some freshly made wine. I'm going to add it into my mix. Now, let's add some wine from that barrel over there. No, that won't do. This wine betrays some technological errors, or maybe it needs to stay in its barrel a little longer to get there. I don't want to use it. Let's get rid of it. Here, I've added some wine from another barrel. It seems thick and oily, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. It has a fresh but a very deep, distinct nose. It's very well balanced. That's exactly what I was looking for.
As we move to our next course, something wasn't quite right.
Yes, we have an absolutely different picture here. We have a heavy dish and a rich Chardonnay. I think it would be great to have something fresh. We have a classic sparkling rosé Pinot Noir. These berry undertones goes well with fatty meals.
But when do you add the bubbles to it?
Secondary fermentation.
Mishako is not a simple winery. It also hosts a cultural center and a contemporary art gallery. We decided to pose as artists and organized our own performance.
What you were working on yesterday is in fact a base for a young wine. Generally, young wines are not very interesting. They are too straightforward, easy, simple, and citrusy. They usually have strong apple undertones. This sort of young, crisp wines with high levels of acidity go perfectly with mussels.
You've been diving for hours and got too little. This is ridiculous.
We found just the right man to do our mussels justice. Meet the Italian chef Paolo Lopolito. To accompany his old family recipe, Paolo suggested sparkling wine.
To combine our taste by oysters and this wine, we need to push the acid taste of champagne in the best way. And in this case, I used salgemma, just some pearl to lick and after put out of mouth, and then eating oysters and then drink champagne. It's just to prepare your mouth. Try this kind of fresh midi marinade in white уксус, soya. I used soya and oil, extra virgin, and just some pepper on top. Please, this is a connect. Look, you just need to take one crouton, like this and support.
And put it into the mouth. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. When you drink some champagne, some sparkling wines, after you taste this kind of mussels, it's very interesting feeling in the mouth.
After a wonderful evening with sparkling wines and seafood, we were hungry for more.
Every time I visit Abrau, I really like this balcony and the pool below. Before it gets too hot, let's have a quick breakfast and take a walk to the Abrau winery. Summer is really a great time to walk around Abrau. I'm not sure if this is the most luxurious sparkling wine around, but clearly this is the best sparkling wine produced in Russia using the classical champagne method. That is certain. In this country, champagne is a highly political product. We can see this in our sales statistics. When the country is going through something difficult, people stop falling in love, going on dates, having fun, and this affects the sales of sparkling wine.
Can you also tell if people's tastes change throughout the years?
In the last, say, 10 years, we've been able to increase the sales of Brut only by 10%. The rest of consumption is semi-dry, semi-sweet, and sweet. This is completely physiological. Russia is a northern country, and we need an additional energy source to take the place of the sun here. Historically, the grape was not only some sort of special plant that made wine, making people happy. Here it was a source of nutrients. It was a means of survival. It was sugar, juice, wine. And interestingly, it played an important role in Russian history. When the fate of the Northern Caucasus was being determined, the grape was often a solution to political problems. Vast vineyards were planted all around Dagestan and Chechnya. The entire Northern Caucasus was calmed and quieted with grapes. People were busy, they had to work, they needed to look after the vineyards. Around them grew an entire infrastructure of kindergartens and schools. And this kept an enormous number of people living in the Northern Caucasus busy. After adding yeast and sugar to dry wine, the bottles are carefully stored for the secondary fermentation. During this important period, the yeast eats up the sugar, producing carbon dioxide, and then dies. After this, the yeast cells disintegrate, producing a strong aroma with complex, mushroomy, and sometimes cheesy undertones. This creates a rich mix of tastes and scents.
Первая серьезная операция после того, как тиражную смесь разлили по бутылкам и дали бутылкам отлежаться в тоннелях.
This process involves separating the residue formed by the dead yeast cells from the final product by tipping it into the neck of the bottle. This process is called remuage.
Could you tell us how many bottles do you have to tilt a day?
At least 40 or 50,000.
Let's give it a try. This is followed by another process, also named with a fancy French word, dégorgeage. The neck of each bottle is frozen. A specialist in dégorgeage removes the temporary cap from the bottle, and the frozen residue shoots out of the neck of the bottle into a special type of bucket. Now the permanent cork is inserted, and the wine is ready. Well, in these 4 days, we have visited a lot of different wineries. We started with a small garage winery and finished with the best-known Russian sparkling wine company, Abrau-Durso, which was the best Soviet sparkling wine producer and remains the leader in the industry. Now, do you believe that Russia is able to make good wine?
You see, when I decided to come here, I already had a clear idea of our winemaking potential. The best part is that I got to get so close to the whole thing. I got to see everything with my own eyes, try my hand at every stage of the wine production. This has been an invaluable experience. I think the most important thing about Russian winemaking is that everyone is trying to find their own style. This is an important moment of revival. The history of Russian winemaking has deep roots. It has been difficult, and it is still hard and unappreciative. It is great to see all the enthusiasts. People really try hard. They work despite all the difficulties. I believe that we have to support all these experiments. This search will certainly bring in extraordinary results.